Hello and welcome to The Table. I'm Tyler Mitchell, Discipleship Pastor at Fellowship West, and we're so glad you pulled up a chair today. Here at The Table, we believe that faith grows best in community, that some of the most meaningful conversations happen not just in pews or pulpits, but around tables. Each episode will share stories, reflections, and honest conversations about life, faith, and what it means to follow Jesus together. Whether you're part of our West family, just exploring faith, or somewhere in between, you have a seat here. Today, we're excited to continue our series of interviews with people from our West family. Over the next few weeks, you'll hear stories, insights, and reflections from our church leaders and members of our church community as we talk about what God is doing in and through their lives. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's have a conversation.
Well, hello and welcome. This is Ben Spencer here as the host for today. And today we're going to sit down with Matt Knight, the student pastor at Fellowship West. If you're familiar with Fellowship West, you know some of his story, but today we'll get to know him a little more, his story, his background, and how God's leading him in his journey right now. Matt, it's good to sit down with you. How you doing?
I'm excited to be here.
So how about this? Let's get started by getting down to the nitty gritty here, the real details. What is your favorite popsicle color?
Popsicle color? Oh man,
flavor. I go by color.
I've been really getting into bomb pops recently, and so
Really?
yes, so
Did not expect that.
yeah, so the just classic red, white, and blue.
Okay.
That, and then the Nerds bomb pops, which are pink, green, and purple.
Wow.
So
Really bringing in the patriotism here, I think.
yes.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, man, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your upbringing, family?
Yeah, so I grew up right here in Bonner Springs,
Yeah.
well, on the Leavenworth County side. So if you grow up in Bonner, you know that you can say you're from Bonner Springs, but then you're kind of just from wherever on whichever side of the line. It's kind of confusing.
Okay.
So yeah, so moved here when I think I was like 5 years old, and then just kind of grew up here my entire life. And then my parents are divorced, and so primarily was in Bonner, but spent some time in Olathe as well, just going back and forth. So that's kind of my quick upbringing and where I live.
Yeah. So that's where you're from and how you got to be in Bonner Springs. But what was growing up like here? What was maybe y'all's view of faith, of God, of church?
Yeah, first off, I feel like, well, just growing up in Bonner, I feel like it's changed a lot.
Mm.
I mean, I remember just recently the Starbucks being built and feeling like Bonner's finally been put on the map.
We've
We
arrived.
finally made it. I mean, and I went to Baser and they have a Taco Bell now, so
Dude,
it's like things are really just
it's exploding.
blowing up
Metropolis
around here. But yeah, growing up, I mean, so we went to Elm Grove Baptist Church growing up, and with my mom, and then my dad kind of went to, I forget the name, but it was a non-denominational church. And so growing up in the church about until I was 10, we would go from strong Baptist views to non-denominational, almost, what I would say less traditional views. Mm-hmm. And so growing up in the church, it was very confusing going from strong conviction to almost just laissez-faire, kind of just going through the motions. And so experiencing faith in that way, just growing up, when I've reflected on it, was very confusing because it was hard to know which was right and who was, maybe on the right side of faith, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What was young Matt like when he was young? What did you like to do?
When growing up, what did I like to do? Well, I loved basketball, loved, getting outside and playing as much as I could, I guess.
I've seen you shoot a hoop or two.
Yes, loved video games, played plenty of video games. I feel like I was pretty nerd. I remember growing up, we were shown Star Trek and Star Wars, and so there was some nerdy, maybe dorky sides of me.
So would you classify yourself as a Trekkie?
No, I would not. Okay. Although I do think that it is in some ways better than Star Wars. But that's a whole other conversation.
I don't.
Anyway,
You might make some viewers upset. I don't have a dog in the fight. So,
so yeah, I feel like, there was that, and then just playing video games. But I mean, I loved sports too. And so I feel like I was kind of all over the board. I can't really point to one thing I loved like more than anything. It was just basketball and TV and video games.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, there wasn't a whole lot. I feel like that's kind of just a part of growing up in a small town. You kind of go through the motions every single day, and you're not really exposed to different experiences.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that was it.
Well, we played with dirt a lot as kids.
Yes.
So I probably come from a similar experience. Well, you love fishing as well. We've talked about that.
Yes.
So you do like to fish.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite spot around here that we should be aware of? Like a secret hidden Bonner Springs locals only spot?
No. The ponds in Bonner are not great, but the apple orchard in Baser, I've caught some decent fish there.
Oh, nice.
But I feel like I'm probably not the right person to ask for a secret fishing spot. I've heard there's a good spot maybe near the river somewhere hidden. But other than that, yeah, no, I don't have a secret spot.
You can't disclose any other details about that. Let's move on. So let's talk about your calling to Christ.
Yeah.
And or maybe you coming to West and that whole experience there. Tell me, how did Jesus lead you to salvation?
Yeah, so I feel like I was saved. Well, I put quotes around that when I was 9. I just remember classic Awanas, and I remember there being an invitation one night, and I remember going to the side room, raising my hand after the invitation, and going to the side room and walking through the Awanas pamphlet with somebody. But I just remember looking back, after that, it was kind of just what you did, kind of just, again, growing up, that was at the traditional Baptist church. So it felt like that was the traditional kind of rule or right thing to do.
Yeah.
But my life afterward definitely didn't reflect that. And I just remember when I turned 16 and my grandpa had passed away, I remember just saying, well, really struggling with that and saying, well, I'm going to do whatever I want to make myself happy, which for any high school guy to say is going to lead to a path of destruction. Yes, dangerous. And so anyway, I just remember, going through high school, parents kind of had, started bouncing around from churches, just trying to find the right thing for them. And so there wasn't any sort of consistency or anyone really speaking into my life. And so I remember then after high school, when I was going to college, my dad had actually mentioned to me going and joining a campus ministry at Johnson County Community College called InterVarsity. And I remember it was one of those things where it was like, okay, sure, Dad. When your parents suggest something and you're about to become an adult, you're like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to do that.
What do you know?
Right.
Mom and Dad.
Yeah. And so I remember I was walking around at Clubs and Orgs Day, which is when they have all the, first couple weeks of classes, you're a freshman on campus. They have all the clubs out there and you can talk to their leaders. And I remember...
Did you say Orgs Day?
Yes.
Surely there's a better name.
I know.
I could come up with something.
Clubs and Orgs Day at Johnson County Community College. And so I remember I was walking around and I was actually looking for the improv club because I acted in high school and did improv. And so I really wanted to join that. But they sadly told me that club had ended. So I know I didn't get to join it. But I'd walked around that InterVarsity booth that my dad had suggested, and the guy he told me to speak to, whose name is Tim. And I walked by it a couple times, and I felt like there was this almost nudge in me to go speak to them, but I was like, I'm not doing that. And so I remember walking to my truck, and I was halfway there, and I was leaving the campus, and I just remember there being this pull in me to go talk to Tim. And so that's when I turned around, went and spoke to him, and I didn't really understand what was really pulling me that way, except now I know it was the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so getting involved there, it was really just, at the time, I remember just reflecting on my life and my upbringing, what I'd grown. I didn't really know where I stood with Jesus. And that was really important to me. Starting out was just being 100% honest with where I was. And so that kind of led through a couple years of just getting back involved in a relationship with Jesus or learning more about him. You know, that went from joining a Bible study and getting plugged into church, and then following a couple guys here at West, which is where I ended up, and getting plugged in here. And so from there, it was, you know, a couple years had gone by. I was moving out to Lawrence and KU, and I remember just, you know, I had started getting involved, starting to take my faith more seriously, but I had relied on that quote unquote salvation when I was 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good because of what I did then. So what's next?
Right. Yes, exactly. I must be covered, you know. But I remember moving out to Lawrence, and I remember that first night there, it was like, this is probably the worst decision I could have made. Only because I remember just laying there and feeling like I was truly alone. And kind of just looking at my life and just this, it was almost just this like crushing weight of, I'm finally by myself and I still feel just lost. And so I remember getting coffee with Tyler and talking to him about that and talking through that. And I remember just in that conversation kind of coming to the realization where I didn't feel like I was genuinely saved because of just how my life had been up to that point, how it was more rooted in tradition and kind of just what it's supposed to look like and not out of a genuine heart. And so I remember that at Third Space, you know, crying out and getting saved that day. And then I think it was like the next week or two getting baptized here and just kind of growing from there.
That's great, man. So this like, I love this sort of description you gave of like knowing what like a good life was supposed to look like. And so all you were doing, your faith was just trying to be that.
Yeah.
Trying to look that way. Tell us about your baptism. Was that like a typical baptism, you think? Was there anything interesting about it?
Yes. My baptism, the water was 100, what'd you say, 112 degrees, I think you told me recently, or it was hot.
A guess. It was a guess just because it seemed hotter than a hot tub.
Yeah. I don't know I can't remember if it was like we got a new water heater or what, but I remember getting in and my whole body just turning red. It was not comfortable.
Yeah. No, you didn't look comfortable. You looked like a chili pepper.
Yeah.
And there's, we'll say, some sort of malfunction with the heating element.
Yes.
So
yeah.
There's never been another baptism like that at Fellowship West.
No.
There's been cold ones because of, you know, malfunctions the other way.
Yes.
But nobody else has ever been boiled.
Yes.
You're the only one.
I've had the hottest baptism here at Fellowship West. Coming in hot.
Put it on a plaque. Well, that's great, man. So there you are, you know, at the coffee shop. You've accepted the Lord, you know, and then, you know, right now you're the student pastor at Fellowship West. So tell us a little bit about that journey, that calling to the ministry, and what did that look like for you?
Well, I always tell people after my moment of salvation, I still had the worst year of my life. And so it was not a quick fix sort of moment. It was still a very difficult year. And I think that a part of that was just you're still learning a lot and you're on your own and you're trying to figure out I just remember wrestling with, okay, I know I'm supposed to I love Jesus now. I'm supposed to be following him, but I'm still battling the old way I used to live. And that was always just at conflict within. But I think what got me out of that was honestly just getting out of Lawrence and kind of just being back with people and community, but just kind of continually being discipled by you, Tyler, I mean, just everyone on staff here helped kind of guide me down the right path. And then I also think serving is what kind of helped lead me towards this call to ministry. I remember, I mean, I didn't know anything about the Bible really, just because, again, just growing up, going from church to church, there not being real consistency. I knew Noah's Ark, but
Yeah.
I didn't know, I mean, serving with the students, most of the students knew more than me. And so it was it was challenging, but it also helped me grow a lot in my faith and understanding about God, because as I was able to teach them about life experience, I also felt like I was learning from God and from them, and when anyone else would speak about Jesus and the Bible. And so as I continued to serve, I just remember feeling this call of, and it's kind of grown over time, but just initially it was, there's a better, like, I know that there's a better way and Jesus is the better way. I don't want these middle school boys or high school boys to make the same mistakes I did, and to see that there is a better way through Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of the initial spark, I would say, and how that's grown over time is just, now it's pretty similar, but just knowing overall that following Jesus is the right way. It is the better way. It is the only way you're going to find any sort of fulfillment or joy. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at and what called me to ministry and what gets me excited about it.
Yeah. So I love that, because correct me if I'm wrong, what it sounds like you're saying is you didn't feel like, well, I had this calling to say, like, hey, go be on staff somewhere, go be a minister, a pastor, or whatever. But instead, what you first felt was like a mission.
Yeah.
You know, I want to pour into students like this.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, how's the best way to do that?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Like, I think when I look back, when I started serving, I don't know if I should have been serving just because of where my heart was, but I'm glad that I was given that chance. And that's not anybody's fault. That's just, again, because I knew the right answers and how to play the part.
Mm-hmm.
But once I, was saved and committed my life to Jesus, yes, that spark grew into, man, there is like a difference in following him. And so how do I take that to all students?
Yeah, I love that. So you have this passion for student ministry. What does student ministry success look like for you?
One of my favorite parts is when I see it click in a student's mind and heart. Like when the heart and the mind meet, that's my favorite. And when I see them take charge of their faith, to me, that's a success and that's a win, because, I think taking charge and being a leader is first, taking that step of salvation. That's obviously a huge win. But then it's, how do I lead where I'm at? And seeing the students step into that role when they choose to is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's great. So then what does a typical work week look like for you? So I say that, I'll tell the listeners, Matt works part-time at Fellowship West as a student pastor. You also are attending seminary.
Yeah.
And your other job is at Staples.
Yeah.
So maybe don't bore us with all of that job, but like a little bit, tell us about that job.
Yeah.
And then like, how does your whole week look like, when it comes to
Yeah.
ministry and trying to get that done?
Yeah, well, I feel like this is important to add. Before I worked at Staples, I was at Sporting.
Yes.
And while I was there, I remember I had talked to Tyler about kind of stepping into ministry, but took the job at Sporting because it took so much of my time. I mean, I was working, I think, 60, 80 hours a week at Sporting.
Yeah.
But I kind of used that busyness as an excuse to not step out in faith, because I was just afraid that maybe I wasn't going to be enough or, be able to do a good job. And so that working that job has helped me prep for the busyness that I do now. And so a typical work week is, I'm here at the church office on Mondays and Wednesdays, but I'm still doing my Staples job because it is a hybrid job, but I'm able to join staff meetings or step away for a second if I need to. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in the Staples office. And then in the evenings, I'm doing school during the semester, fall and spring semesters. And then also in the evenings, I'm typically prepping for Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
So as is often the case with, with me and other staff, sometimes if you're trying to reach out to Matt during a work day, just know that he will get to you.
Yes.
He might be in a
Eventually.
Staples meeting. And so, yeah, that's a busy week, man. You also have a family at home.
Yes.
Wife, Laura.
Yes.
Son, Brooks.
Yes.
Who is how many months old?
He is about 6 months old.
6 months old. Half a year, man.
Yes.
Time flies. And so anyone with, an infant can attest that takes a large amount of your time and your, your energy and emotional energy as well.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell us about how you feel being a dad for these last 6 months.
It has been the best thing ever. If you've heard our story with Brooks, there's been a lot of fear, but as far as being a dad, it has been awesome. Even in the little moments where he won't stop crying and you're not sure why, it's still a joy. And so, yeah, I'm loving it.
Man, that's, there's probably something that you can, take away from being a dad to a crying infant for, student ministry.
Yes, I think
something there.
Yeah, I think mostly just patience
or adult ministry for that matter.
I think it's just teaching myself a lot of patience.
There's a lot of command for love and unity in the New Testament. And man, I just think being a dad or, just a parent in general, really, really is one of the biggest ways that God shapes that in us.
Yes. Well, with babies, it's like, since he's 6 months, it's what is going on and why are you upset? Why are you frustrated? What's going on in your life? And I feel like most weeks that is how it is with students. It's why are you, what is going on this week? Why are you upset? Or sometimes they're upset one week and they come in as happy the next. You're like, okay, what is going on? What is new?
Ups and downs.
So,
man, babies don't have the language to articulate what's wrong and students just don't want to.
No. And I don't even know if they have the language sometimes too.
Man, that's great.
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about, baby Brooks and the busyness of your schedule and school and all that. And, so why don't you tell us, what has God been teaching you personally during the season?
That I need to just pause for a second. That has been my biggest weakness probably the past few months. I think just because of how I'm wired and with my schedule, I have to be going. I can't, if I let something drop, then I've got to spend extra time to, catch up. And so because of that, I am going what feels like 100 miles an hour all the time and trying to complete tasks. And so I think the best example is oftentimes when it's prepping for a Wednesday message, I'll sit down and I'll open it up and I have the idea of what I'm going to talk about. And so I'll just start reading and studying and I don't pause to just pray.
Yeah.
Or even just sit in silence. And I feel like that is just true for me, even when it comes to Sunday mornings or my own quiet time when I've tried just reading. And there's never an order of operations. It's just, I am really bad at just resting and praying and focusing on Jesus and just resting in him. And so I feel like that has been the biggest thing that God is trying to get me to focus on for sure.
So you're not talking about I need to make some space in my schedule for a lack of activity. You're saying like, hey, I need to pause and fix my eyes on the Lord.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think that I'm one of those people where we hear all the time that we're too busy. And I think everyone's excuse is, well, what am I supposed to cut out? And I'm definitely one of those people because, like I said, with my schedule, I have staples. I can't cut out my full-time job.
Yeah.
I'm here. This is what I'm called to. I can't just cut out this. Need to get done with school, so I can't cut out school, or that'll go on longer. And then I can't cut out being a dad.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure there's phone time and screen time where I can cut out. Sure. Like I agree with that. But like I said, when I'm sitting down to just study or having my quiet time, because during the day, I've been so wired to just go and complete tasks. It's more of a task that I'm trying to get done instead of just, like you said, pausing and resting and taking a moment to genuinely just pray or pause in his presence. Because I feel like the times where I have gotten the most out of my quiet time is when I've taken time to just pause and be in silence.
Yeah. And I wonder if anybody listening would kind of agree with that in their own experience. Like what I try to tell people a lot when it comes to like time spent with the Lord, whether it's, time in prayer, time studying the Bible, you have to start with where you are. You can't say, all right, I'm just starting studying the Bible and praying, so I'm going to carve out a 1 hour block to do that every day. Well, it's like, no, man, if you have not done this before and you're busy, it's like start with 5 minutes, start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And that's a great place to start. But what I'm wondering if people listening have had a similar experience as you is, when you get to that place in your day where you're like, okay, whether it's in the morning or afternoon, evening, you're like, I have time right now. And I'm just going to seek the Lord and rest in his goodness. I'm going to study scripture. I'm going to spend some time in prayer. And you don't have a schedule and you don't have this thing that's inhibiting you. Yeah. It's for me, some of the sweetest time, because there's such a freedom in, in not having to watch the clock or you're not having to wait on that alarm to ring to tell you, oh, time's up. And so I think, men, whereas we should definitely start where we are, more of a carved out block of spending time with the Lord is definitely something we should be pursuing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what anyone who spends that kind of time with the Lord will tell you is it's so life-giving.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why, so I do my quiet time trying to more so in the evenings, because waking up early is just, especially with a newborn, just
when
sounds...
You've been up all night already.
Yeah, it sounds miserable. But when I do it in the evening and I'm sitting at, my desk, like you said, there is no alarm. And in my head, I know, okay, I can sacrifice a couple more minutes of sleep before I go to bed to just rest. I don't know if I could do that in the morning, honestly.
It's always easier once you're already awake.
Yes. Yeah.
So we talk about community a lot on this podcast. And for good reason. Tyler, who leads the podcast, is the pastor of discipleship here. But, we know we're called to be a community in the church. And like we said, we're called to unity and love for one another. So, in this church, Fellowship West, and your community here, what kind of role has that played in your spiritual growth?
Oh, my. I mean, that's like been the biggest part of my growth. I mean, I don't think that it's hard, because I love this church dearly, and it's one of those things where sometimes I'm like second guessing myself, like, wait, is it my relationship or is it the church's relationship? Almost like going back and forth between that old way of, am I just playing a part or is it mine? But I definitely feel like that's where community is important, because it is a part of your relationship with Jesus. It's not completely exclusive. Like the two aren't separated. And so, man, I genuinely don't know if I would be where I'm at if it weren't for the people at West or the community and friends that I have made here. Just from a love and support. I mean, I met my wife here, and so that's kind of a big deal. But spiritually, like, I genuinely don't know if I would be where I'm at without my community and the people genuinely cheering me on. And I think that that's what I love about West the most is, you know, when you get a bunch of people, broken people together, usually it's dysfunctional, but I feel like the people here at West and the community here are genuinely rooting for each other and genuinely want to see the best for each other, even if we have different opinions. And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've felt here is just the support and kind of the people that have been rooting for me since I've been here has helped a lot.
Yeah. So, Matt, you've had the privilege of preaching here every Wednesday to the student ministry during the school semester, and then here and there on Sundays as well. In fact, you preached this past Sunday. So, what's your favorite part about preaching?
Oh, man. So, I said that I did improv in high school, and that's kind of one of those things that I was looking forward to.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes. I wanted to come back to that.
But I love being on stage, and I love sharing God's word and connecting it to a story or an idea. And when it makes sense and you can see it click in people's hearts and minds, that's one of my favorite parts. Now, that being said, there are stories where I'll say it and I'm like, I don't think this is connecting at all. And you kind of are like, I'm not sure.
Sometimes you just need some feedback when you're up there.
Right. You know? But one of my favorite parts about preaching is, you know, I'll have an outline or something written down, but when you're on stage and the Holy Spirit moves you to say something that's not even written down, that's one of my favorite parts where I can see Jesus actively moving in me as I'm on stage. And it's kind of one of those things where it's a reminder of this isn't my voice, it's the Lord's using my voice. And so that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I love that because I think you seem really free on stage. The Holy Spirit tells me to stick to my notes. And so generally, but we have different styles for sure. And so, man, it's a joy to be able to see you, just grow more and more in that. You already do an excellent job. Yeah. So we're talking about student ministry. Who is your favorite student?
Oh, man, they are all my favorite. And I tell them that all the time. I don't have a list that is published.
Yeah. Man, so just you love them all, but in different ways.
Yes.
That's what I tell my guitars and what my parents used to tell us.
Yes. You have to love each personality differently.
That's true.
Yeah.
So preaching, obviously, a big part of what you do wrapped up in student ministry and to adults, but you're passionate about students.
Yeah.
And about ministering to them, about their growth. So, you and I have kind of talked about this from time to time. What is the biggest challenge for students or the biggest issue maybe that they face that you've seen so far in your experience?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge that students are feeling on a daily basis is pressure. Pressure from family, from school, and then from sports, especially, and then from the church. And what I mean by that is, and I don't think that there's good pressures and there's bad pressures.
Sure.
But I think that a student, they want their parents to love them. And so they're going to feel this. And even if the parents are great and aren't putting pressure on the student's still going to want to impress them and want to hear that they're proud of them. And so there is going to be this pressure to almost perform there, whether that's in school or in sports, or maybe it is within the church. And so then, and then there's school where it's getting good grades and achieving there, or it's sports. And I mean, the amount of time that is dedicated to sports, which I love sports, but the amount of pressure that is on students to be at every practice, starting when they're in third grade to just make varsity when they're a senior is a lot. And then you get someone on stage saying, well, you should focus on Jesus. You should prioritize Jesus. You should sacrifice time for Jesus. And so there's this...
And being squeezed on all sides.
Yes, there's this pressure from even, the people, even me sometimes, just saying, well, we should prioritize Jesus. And again, I don't think that is anyone's fault, but it's how do we reframe where students feel value and feel valued, and that has been the toughest part for me.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that Jesus should be prioritized, that their faith should be prioritized. But I also know that they want to play sports and they want to make varsity, and that's not a bad thing at all. Or they want to, get great, good grades or make their parents proud. And so it's how do we balance that conversation, and how do we balance prioritizing faith through our schedules and through our busyness? But yeah, pressure, that is the hardest thing.
So I'm a millennial, and there's I feel like a major emphasis in our upbringing on performance and stuff like that. And so, and you see kind of the effects of that. You're almost like you're right on the edge.
Yes. I'm the first year of Gen Z.
Yeah. Very old Gen Z / very young millennial. So like chances are you've experienced a lot of this as well. But, and you see some of the effects of this as adults, that are kind of like a little more nitpicky about certain things, and especially their own kids and upbringing. And I see that myself. So, but do you think like there's a different kind of pressure now with the age we're in with social media and all the access they have to that? Like, is there more pressure to look a certain way for students now than there has been?
Yes. I think that it's so hard because there aren't a lot of studies, I don't think, on students using phones, because first off, what student's going to answer honestly about social media's impact on their image? But yeah, there is a pressure. I mean, I remember, because social media was getting big, really started when I was in high school. And so I remember, for me, caring about the amount of followers I had. I mean, it is like a hit of endorphins when you gain more followers. It's exciting. Even now, for me, when I post on the student ministry Instagram account and there's a reel that gets a lot of views, you're not doing it for the views, but it is almost like, oh, this is awesome and exciting. And so, for students, when you're posting on social media, it is about how much am I getting viewed, and how much am I being seen. And then to kind of if you want to keep up with that, you've got to keep posting, you've got to keep showing yourself. And so, that's an added pressure. Yeah. And then with how often culture is shifting and changing, there's that pressure to quickly adapt to it as well.
Yeah. What's the next trend that I need to meet? What's the next thing I need to do, or way I need to look? Yeah. I actually love, and we've talked about this book a little bit in the past, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Yeah. Really has some great insight for parents into, not only social media, but iPhones in general, and how those kind of affected this generation. And so a lot of really good stuff and research in there, very research driven. And I commend it to any parents right now who are listening to this, because it's such a good resource, whether you're moving into, at some point, your kids are young now, but they're going to be that age, or if you're there right now. I've seen a few parents in our church who read that book and really were able to take it to heart and implement some things in their families that have been beneficial.
Well, and that's where pressure plays a huge part in these students' lives too, and on the parents, because like you said about apps and phones, we're in a culture now where if your student doesn't have the next new phone or is on Snapchat, Instagram, then all of a sudden there's this pressure of they feel excluded and they don't feel like they're a part of it. And then what do you do as the parent? Because you see, well, they're hurting by this. You know that it's probably best that they don't have it, but at the same time, you don't want them to miss out. And so it feels very much like a lose-lose situation sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you see that a lot. I love what you said about, well, with all of this pressure, we have to reframe how we value them in their whole lives. So if there was one thing you wanted to tell parents today, what would that be?
I think that, so I listened to, I forget what it was called and I forget the title. So sorry.
That's super helpful.
I know, right? So I'm really sorry to everyone listening, but I was listening to a podcast on fatherhood. And so this is more specifically to fathers. Yeah. But one of the things that they were talking about was pressure and this desire to perform. And I think that whoever was talking about how dads are often the ones that take their kids to practice or show up to the games. And that's really the only time that maybe they're spending with their kid is at these sports events.
Yeah.
And performance, exactly. And so that although there is maybe some intentionality there, it's still showing that, you know, you only value your student or child when they're performing.
Yeah.
And so one of the advice that person mentioned was just go to lunch, just go spend time with them, go to a park, go do something where they're not having to perform, to show them that you truly love them and value them aside from what they are doing. I loved that. And so I think that, and that's for parents in general. Like if the only time you're spending with your student is at their sports games or at their practices, then maybe it is instilling this performance-based, I need to achieve so my parent is proud of me and loves me. Just go to lunch with them, just go spend time with them. And I think that can start to take away pressure of achieving and being the top person. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. If Brooks becomes the star basketball player, I would love that. Like, you know, or Laura would want him to be the best keyboardist. Like, you know, we would love that. We want to see them achieve, but to make sure that they know we love them and value them for who they are as a person is really important.
Yeah, man, that's so helpful to parents. Matt, thank you for taking the time to tell us your story and your ministry experience and tell us about your passions, man. It's really nice to sit down with you. Be sure to tune in next week for a special Fellowship West anniversary episode of The Table.
Thank you for joining us today at The Table. We hope this conversation has been meaningful to you and that you feel encouraged in your journey of faith. If you'd like to stay connected, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And be sure to join us in person. For more information about Sunday service times and locations, head to our website, fellowshipwest.com. If something from today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a friend or leave us a review because everyone has a seat at the table. Until next time, remember, you are loved and there's always a place for you here. Take care and we'll see you again soon.